So my personal connection with harm reduction began officially about 10 years ago when I started volunteering for a peer-run syringe access program in Seattle called the People's Harm Reduction Alliance. But prior to that, I had been an injection drug user on and off since the time I was 16. And I found a community through harm reduction and a sense of self-worth that I had not ever experienced before. And I recognized that there was actually something that I was good at and that I had value, and that everything that I had been taught to believe about myself and the systems that we've been living under were actually fallacies. And so it sort of blew open this floodgate for me and was a really transformative experience, which has changed my life, every single aspect of my life, from what I do for work to how I live my life, to how I parent, to how I engage and interact with the world in general. So I work as a harm reductionist, and my activism is in harm reduction as well. Just the language that people use geared towards people who use drugs. It's like, we want to create a space where there's information sharing, where you can walk into your provider's office and know that the information that they know is the same exact information that you know. And in order to build a rapport and connection and trust, it has to come from a place of shared decision making, and also the fact that each person has a mutual respect for their own knowledge and is willing to humble themselves and be like, I don't know what it's like to walk in your shoes. I want to know, and I want to be educated, and I'm open to it. And I'm not just going to drop you or do more harm. I may not agree with your choices, but, this idea that moms and babies are separate, whatever happens to a mom, it happens to the baby too. You see these images of babies that are, withdrawing from opioids, and it's why? Because the first thing they do is, after the baby's delivered, is they take it away from the mom. That's the opposite thing that a neonate needs. It needs to be held and fed and connected with its mother. And so, of course, you're going to see an agitated baby. If you're doing it correctly, if you're practicing good medicine, if you're utilizing evidence, you know that what babies need is eat, sleep, console, and to room in with their parents. And their parents need to be educated too. And so it's sort of this kind of overarching sort of concept of we want to build a coalition of providers and networks of providers that want to work with our population and that are willing to be informed by the expertise of our population, of us, of drug users. And while at the same time providing a service where people can access harm reduction supplies and education and build skills and be able to build a life for themselves through gainful employment, either through Woodworks or APHR, or by creating birth working businesses in their own communities, and passing this legacy on to other families. I think that there's a lot of challenges because no one's ever done anything with this specific population. There are 23 states that have child abuse laws on the books, implicating people who are pregnant and using drugs is dangerous. It's dangerous for participants, and it's dangerous for me. But I don't, in the spirit of harm reduction, we're not going to sit around and wait for it to be okay. We know that people are using drugs and they're pregnant and they stop accessing services. And we know that their outcomes could be far much more improved if they had supports in place. And so I think when I first conceptualized the program, I had this sort of kind of daydreamy idea of how it was going to work. And now as I'm going through and the nuts and bolts of it, I'm realizing that I have to be able to pivot, and the importance and the gratitude that I have for the networks that I've built throughout the years, and relying heavily on my community for suggestions and support. I think that the world that we live in today is very different than the world that we lived in when this program was first conceptualized. And it's exciting because I think it will provide a sense of anonymity for people to access services and actually learn a whole lot of really good skills without having to expose themselves. Conversely, I think that it's really exciting because it will provide syringe access programs across the country the opportunity to educate themselves and their staff on how to serve this population of people.